Ooh, brush.
There you go. Eraser.
And organize everything else.
Yep.
Mhm.
Even page still blank.
Getting fancier.
Like nice character sheets.
The character sheet gets 10 times better when it's cardstock.
Okay. I mean, if it's simple math, then I'll just do that every time. Problem solved.
Mm-hmm. Although the cost is quite
A bit higher. Yeah.
pretty proportional.
It's just thicker paper.
Just get like a whole ream as one sheet. That'll make the character sheet better, right? Just
Sure.
Put
Put it on like a papyrus scroll
Just-
and
just
go nuts.
get your leatherworking tools to get into the paper.
Yeah. Start punching holes in it. You're not writing anymore. You're what? Engraving, embossing.
Stamping.
And this is the brand of popcorn you said you can eat. FYI.
Cool.
Just got the white cheddar kind instead of the caramel.
Things that will not kill you.
Yeah.
Or just
I'm a
make
fan.
your day real bad.
Yeah, make you wish you were dead.
Make you unable to walk. All those things that I don't want you to do.
Grow cramping.
It is a positive when you're able to leave the house that you have been invited into.
Going
Version
roll back down the
point.
stairs.
It depends on why you're at the house, I suppose.
It's a fair point. Yeah. Context is everything.
Okay, so yeah, it uses the pip.
Yep. Quick little introduction to the dice system. You'll see this nice little row right at the bottom, kind of embossed. That shows you dice progression, and that's adding a pip per each. So when you get the option to potentially add pips to a die, if you're already at a +2, you don't become a +3, it dies up.
So 3 pip is an extra die.
It
Yep.
dies another day.
But 3 pips can also be split.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Probably.
dice can be broken up into 3 pips, and then 3 pips equal a die. Which
Yep.
is why, as Stephen just said, you don't see +3. You would just flip it up to the next die.
Which I like from a statistics point of view. Prevents
You
you
just
from
hit
trying to
average.
roll.
Now you're
Yeah. It moves you away from the idea of, oh, I can just buy my way to victory with more bonuses.
Why is the authorization?
I haven't taken enough.
So when you start skipping, you can just hang out by and you stand.
And then he just spray pee all around.
Unpleasant thoughts for the night. 1. Well, let's see how far that goes. Okay.
I assume you're right there.
thinking ahead for you.
It's a little better this time because I'm not sitting under the fan.
Right.
Thanks.
Okay, so how do we actually start people on character creation? As I'm realizing I have the sheet of templates here, but I do not actually physically have them. I guess walk through by type?
Sure. Well, first of all, before we get into it, Stephen, you can argue with me about this if you think differently, but I would say that currently this system is in a very functional alpha state, right?
I'll argue the point of alpha only because everybody says alpha nowadays. Really, this is a beta.
I would think
system
it's an
works.
alpha because we're still adding features or subtracting features.
That is
Potential.
very
You
helpful.
might be right there.
That is very helpful.
I wouldn't say it's feature complete. That as much as I'll say. The basic system, as Stephen said, is there. Like how and when you roll the dice,
Just not correcting.
how to
all
improve your
features.
rolls, how to create characters, what combat is like, the general sort of mode of play, some basic stats for gear and equipment and blah, 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 blah. That stuff is there. But the numbers may change. Some things may be, shaved down,
Buffed and nerfed.
removed, modified,
Some
whatever.
hot fixes.
We're still working with the gears and the sprockets here. So that having been said, don't expect we will be answering lots of questions rather than having answers for you already. If that makes any sense.
What does claim cover mean to you?
We don't worry about
We don't worry about that. There's a flat number.
What does it mean personally to you?
Yes,
That's what we're trying
Spiritually,
to ask.
what does
Yes.
claim cover?
As a game designer, what does cover mean?
That's my cover. That's my cover.
I think
Exactly.
Stephen and I have agreed that cover's just the thing, and you get behind the thing, and it gives you a number. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
It really should be.
Yeah. So to do character creation, where the hell did my iPad go? So basically, and in the kind of full game, right? Templates won't not really be necessary per se. You could sort of create your own kind of ad hoc template by just pushing various things together, right? We're talking with your DM and saying, hey, I want to do X or Y, right? But basically, for now, for these purposes, you're going to start out with a template. And the template is sort of a mechanical sketch with actually very little lore or description to it, because it's meant to be sort of very open-ended in that way. You create the character that you want, and then you create the concept that you want, and then you use the template to try to put that into mechanical terms, right?
Okay.
So the template is going to tell you the total number of dice you can distribute to your attributes and your skills. Like it'll say attribute dice, you'll get 12, and skill dice, you'll get 7. And again, you can break those into 3 pips instead. And then you just, plug those into the attributes and skills, right? Then there's a listing of what the minimum and maximum values are for attributes based on the template, right? For instance, if you wanted to be like a wolf person, right? The upper bound on might is 6d, right? So it's not like, say, in the old Star Wars D6 game where you can't go above 4 dice, or the mini-6 system where stay under 4 dice. It's depending on the template, you could pump more dice into might because it allows you to do that.
But I imagine if a template has a buff there, then something else is suffering.
Right. For instance,
Okay.
the minimum value for might on a wolf template is 2d. So you have to put at least 2 in there. And then wit, for instance, that's at a max of 3d,
Okay.
naturally. So yeah, think there are scaling bits where some things get pulled back and some things get increased, right? And these templates, they come with sort of pre-built perks and knocks. Now, what perks are that's exactly what it sounds like. Some kind of special thing that you can do by virtue of being a character based on that template, right? Knocks are exactly they're the opposite end of that, right? Unfortunate things that are part of your character because of your template. But the good thing about knocks is that even though they don't provide you with some kind of mechanical bonus like a perk would, the knocks allow you to generate more of the buster points, which allow you to add 6 to your roll, or ignore damage, or blah, blah, blah. There's a listing of there on the bottom right hand of the sheet, what you can do with those. Every time a knock would come into play, either via the GM's suggestion or the other player's suggestions, just bringing it up, hey, this would make things uncomfortable for my character, or dramatically interesting, right? Then you basically sort of cross that knock off in your mind, right? And then you get a buster point for it, right? And then you can't sort of invoke that knock again to get a buster point until the next session.
Mhm.
Right? Does that make sense?
So your knocks only generate a buster point once per session.
Once per session. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And that's it for templates. And then the rest of the character creation process is you're allocating dice to attributes and skills, and then if you have any dice left over that you didn't spend on skills, you can hold some of this back. You can use them to purchase perks, right? You can also, and this is reminiscent of Savage Worlds, right? You can also select up to 2 knocks in addition to the ones you're already getting for the template, right? And they will either give you, they'll give you a certain amount of pips that you can add to attributes or skills, right? So you're taking that,
To buy a perk.
you're taking that knock literally to like maybe you get enough to buy a perk, or maybe you get enough to pump that skill up a little bit more, right? And then you just get your gear, which is dead simple. You begin with 1 piece of equipment related to each skill you allocated dice to.
Straightforward. I like it.
And then any reasonable minor personal items. And usually these are things that don't have any real mechanical effect. Or very contextual things, like my grandfather's locket, or
Boyfriend's dog tags.
Right, yeah.
Story-focused things to flesh out your character.
Generally story-focused things. Now, it could be something where later on in the story that has a genuine, like, oh, it turns out my boyfriend's dog tags are made out of this rare earth mineral that I'm going to throw into the Wunderwaffe in order to destabilize the magnetic field or what.
Like use
Yes.
a buster point to make that a thing.
Yeah, that could be a thing that you could do, right? But otherwise, it's not like, say, a gun or a piece of armor or a medical kit or something like that.
And in terms of a lot of that general equipment, we don't have a lot of it like written out or statted out. Most of it is, well, what's a mechanical kit? It is a kit that enables you to do mechanical things. There's
Right.
not so much in the way of here's
Full
a
descriptions.
express list of things you can do with it.
Yeah, it's meant to be more sort of narrative forward in terms of the items anyway, so that we don't have to create an exhaustive list of things that have prerequisites or certain contextual uses.
50 feet of rope.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so that, and we have a lot of different templates available to pick because this game is sort of squarely in the action-adventure tradition with elements of pulp and occult horror. Think of it like take the Ghostbusters, right? That's a pretty obvious counterpoint. Put them through boot camp in the style of like, do you ever play the Bad Company Battlefield games we're talking about? Right? So there are these kind of like interesting personalities that have this kind of camaraderie together that are in a squad designed to do one thing, right? And then you put those people in a universe that sort of takes bits of Hellboy and Indiana Jones and all that stuff and kind of meshes all the stuff together in kind of a melange, right? That's the notion of the game, right? And so, because there is this occult, supernatural, even at times science fiction, overtly science fiction stuff going on, you can have a Reichbusters squad that has, like, here's a human being, like, here's a Polish resistance fighter, or whatever, who never stopped fighting the Nazis after the war was over. Then you've got like a wolfman, from the Black Forest in Germany, right? Then you've got an alien who breathes chlorine, right?
Here's why
And then you've got like a ghost, just a dead guy, right? So like it could be anything, and that's sort of what the templates are designed to do. They give you a place to aim for. I want to play a supernatural character. Okay, what kind of supernatural character do you want to play? Because you've got stats for like,
3-4 of them.
werewolves, vampires, zombies. You want to play a robot? We've got android. So you want to be a regular kind of human being? You want to be a rodent person? Like we've got templates for that, so you can kind of do that. And then, like I said, in the fuller game, there's the idea of like just kind of putting templates together yourself if you want to spend the time. And obviously there will be more templates available in the fuller game. It's just that these are things that we thought were like, people are probably going to gravitate to one of these things, right? So there are 5 categories of templates so far, right? There's the alien category, right? Currently, the only template available for that are the Chloru, who are they are resistant to like radiation and acid. They are a little more vigorous than your human being, but oxygen is kind of hazardous to them because they breathe chlorine, so they have to wear some kind of special air cycler or some kind of like suit or something that will enable them to walk around on Earth and in shards, which there are terms for like other worlds, right? That don't necessarily have chlorine content, right, in the atmosphere.
Okay.
Then there's the anthro category. That is Stephen's
Wheelhouse.
Stephen's child. Of which you have like I think it's 4 at the moment. Templates for Canis,
which is dog or wolf inspired, feline, cat, Muridae for rodents, be they rat, mouse, or otherwise, and then Verandidae, which is lizards or Komodo dragons.
So you got your basic like covering fantasy stuff, right?
You can literally be the lizard person.
Lizard
that runs the
people,
world.
dragon people,
Exactly.
rat folk, tabaxi style, covering those kind of things. Then you got the template for a standard human, which just like every single RPG, if you go human, you get
standard.
You get no knocks, but you get no perks either. You get a basic amount of attribute dice and skill dice. Like it's all straightforward. So you can kind of really create the character that you want. Then we have a paranormal category. Werewolves and other were creatures, right? Therianthropes, vampires, zombies. And then the synthetic category, which is android, right? And then what we call autons, which are like more like Danger Will Robinson style, like
Less
robot
designed to
people.
be fake people and more just artificial beings.
Right. Yeah.
It's the VI, not the AI.
Not even necessarily that.
You're just trying.
There's still an
you're not
element of
trying to
artificial
look like a
intelligence.
human.
Yeah. There's no sense of like hiding in plain sight. It's designed with function in mind rather than form, I guess would be the way to put it.
Droids. Standard droids.
Yeah, like a droid. Yeah. Of course, naturally, and all of these templates they have complications, right? In some shards, you're dealing with like
Not waterproof.
maybe what in your Earth terms we would say is sort of Victorian era tech, right? And a robot walking around is like really weird and confusing. Probably a state secret or something like it's that bad. So the autons would have to like cover themselves in heavy clothing all the time, and they'd have to like.
I'm just Sherlock data. It's okay. My eyes aren't weird.
So there are pushbacks and everything with anything. I mean, humans obviously they'll fit in just about anywhere that there are also human beings in the shards, right? And even then, it's kind of easier to sort of take a human at face value in a shard with like bipedal creatures or whatever. It kind of makes sense. Oh, you've got 2 legs too. Okay, you're ugly and you're weird looking, but like that's
You're fine.
whatever. You're fine. Yeah. So those are the templates we have available right now.
So if you've got an idea for category, I guess we will look things up as requested, provide what we've got.
Yeah.
So to refresh your memory, that's alien, anthro, human, paranormal, and synthetic.
I want to be a cat person, obviously.
Done and done.
Seems good.
Yeah. Okay. So you'll have 12 attribute dice.
Okay.
So you can kind of mark that off to the side somewhere.
That's your budget.
Yep.
I see the vampire.
You'll have 7 skill dice.
Okay.
And then you'll be writing these probably as like one number / another number. These are your minimum and maximums.
Okay.
Oh, the vampire's like, we die if we get
Your
missing.
might
kind
is
of
a
deal,
minimum
or
of
is it
1,
like
a maximum of 4.
sunlight sensitivity?
In the case of the extreme allergy, like
Vigor is 0
It's-
and 3.
it
Or
would
like-
severely damage you depending on the rank.
Agility
The
is
more
2
that
and
you're
6.
exposed to the thing, eventually leading to death. Yeah, but it's not like an instantaneous thing.
Wit is 1
Bloating
and
kind of
4.
stop if you haven't fed in a while.
Yeah, that'll
The
work.
worse
And
it
spirit
gets.
is 1
That'll
and
be like
5.
that. You'll have to check to see if you can like resist your.
You start with the following
animal
perk:
impulse to feed, right?
Night
So
vision.
addition that you
Well, I
have.
was thinking like the way they did Elder Scrolls is like when you fed your
And you start with the
resistance,
knock,
when
non-human.
longer you went.
No, those are two
The more
separate
damage.
things. And
That's
in
it.
classical, we're sort of hewing more towards classical lore and everything.
Can we do a quick run over of what all the 5 categories kind of encompass, just so people know what attributes mean what? Might is pretty straightforward.
yeah.
It's kind of your physical brawn and athleticism.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, basically, fighting while unarmed, lifting things, climbing obstacles, jumping, swimming, applications of your physical form that rely on your power or your athleticism, right? As opposed to vigor, which would be constitution and vitality. That's sort of like passive physical power, right? Can you stay alive in the face of disease, damage, poison, extreme temperatures, that
It's
sort
like
of thing?
Constitution.
Yeah. So it sort of lumps constitution and then hit points. I mean, the closest equivalent is like, in terms of 5th edition D&D, would be like constitution, right? Then there's agility, which is coordination and dexterity, right? That covers sort of a whole swath of things. That everything that basically might or vigor wouldn't cover in terms of your physical body, it's probably agility, right? Then there's wit. That's mental acumen, right? Knowledge, reason, awareness. That includes things like knowledge skills and medicine, perception, all that stuff comes from wit. And then spirit is your willpower and force of presence. So think of that as being mostly charisma, if you want to compare it to D&D attributes, with like a shaving of wisdom. Does that make sense?
Is there a reason there's survival skill on here twice?
Yes. Certain skills, you can only train them in the form of a specialization. Now, some of you may remember that from Rippers, where you had to pick a specialization.
Right. Sort of like that.
Melee is like that. Ranged is like that. Knowledge is like that. Survival, also like that. So those are...
It's like a certain terrain.
Not necessarily. Survival's a little broader in this system. The way that we've come up with survival, and we've kind of like tried to crunch things together a little bit because trying to limit the amount of like attributes and skills to work with. Survival in this system represents mastering the environment through external support, which is kind of broad, but the specializations will give you an idea of what that means. Animal handling.
Okay.
Mastering the environment through the use of external support, which is an animal, whether that's riding the animal or using the animal to hunt or fight, forage, whatever. Then there's driving. That would also fall under survival. Again, mastering the environment through external support in the case of a jeep or a tank or something that's drivable, right?
So if you're going to be using something external to do a major thing, it's probably going to
It's probably survival, yeah. And then navigation also falls into that as well. Kind of orienteering, like how can you get around, right? And then that you would pick that specialization based on what you want your character to be good at, right? And those are intentionally left vague. Now, in the full game, there will be like a list of like, here's some specializations that you can take. Here's like 10 or 20 that we've come up with, to guide you in the right direction. But otherwise, it's like, come up with a thing that is, not
Under
too
that
broad,
purview.
but not too narrow, that falls under that umbrella, and that'll be your specialization. Right. So the skills, right? Are there any questions about what the skills might mean? I think they're all pretty straightforward. Black Ops may be a little bit not as intuitive right away, but that's stealth and legerdemain or sleight of hand or whatever for all clandestine purposes. If you're trying to do something sneakily, quietly,
Kind of your skullduggery.
yeah,
area
all that
things.
stuff, stealth, skullduggery, all that stuff gets like mashed together in this Black Ops skill, right?
Mhm.
And then relations is all of the charisma skills from D&D sandwiched into one thing, right? Can you respond to social cues and conditions effectively, right?
No.
Either by charming, being diplomatic, intimidating,
It's okay, everybody's
seducing,
got a
whatever.
dumb stat.
So I'm almost sold on the vampire, but is there a way to offset the allergy through gear?
Just wear a trench coat.
Yeah, you can
Could
kind
you
of
Buffy
pull
the Vampire Slayer
yeah,
it and, like,
you
throw
can
it,
pull
like,
the
over your
Buffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, well, it's still there, and it can be
Swear.
something like, okay,
An
you
executioner's
get in
outfit,
a
just,
grapple
like,
with a
full
Nazi
ass, just,
soldier,
like, violence.
and it could be, all right,
Could be Grim Reaper.
you're gonna get a Buster point because he rips your coat off,
Right.
and now you're starting to burn, but again, you're not instantly killed.
So that would
flat
bring
out.
your extreme allergy like knock down a rank, so instead of it being like 3 or whatever, it's now 2, so it's less severe because you're covering yourself with clothing. Right.
Yeah, you found mechanical ways to make it less likely to occur.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, yeah, I'll try that.
What were the other paranormal ones? Had to go tell our kid to do something.
Vampire.
Zombie and Therianthrope.
No.
Other than vampire, which is what I was just talking about.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get ghosts, but I didn't want to do ghosts for a first trial run.
Yes, we had a, we had the conversation about we got a cool lore reason
Mm-hmm.
as to why ghosts can't get into Nazi compounds, but
They can get in pretty much everywhere.
everywhere else is like
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
I
phase through
remember
this
that
door.
conversation.
Fuck you,
Mm-hmm.
So
It's like as soon as you add in a character that can fly, it like breaks the game.
Mm-hmm.
it's basically that, but with the added lump of being incorporeal. Yeah.
We got our sea stone.
Now in the full game, that'll be like kind of like the way that Therianthropes work now, which is like you have a certain you have strict elements of the transformation. You have a time limit,
It takes some energy for you to do some sort of
Question.
incorporeal thing.
you have to expand X or Y, and it lasts for this long or that long to be able to phase through a wall. Then you can't do it again for another. It's like an ability on recharge, essentially.
Yeah, it
Can
may
we-
end up being like a once per session thing.
Even that, depending on the level
Yeah.
of the effect.
Is it possible to drop a werewolf from space?
I mean, this system, I think, was built on the notion that you can do that. Yes.
Where would a werewolf drop?
Mhm.
So,
We've got to get to the JFK era, but once we get there, that's like goal number 1, right?
No, just strap him to a V2, and then just it'll work, right? You don't need that much payload for just one werewolf.
It's going to be a little unbalanced.
I think I will do a chloro.
All right.
cool chlorine.
So, attribute die, you're looking at 12 of those. And then you'll have 7 skill dice, which will be a running theme for most characters.
Okay.
These are your minimum and maximums for attributes.
Did you get your mins and maxes?
Yeah.
You got distracted, so I wasn't sure. Okay.
Might is a 1/4, so you have to put at least
Mhm.
1 full die.
Right.
Doesn't start at 1. Vigor is a 2/6.
Okay.
Agility is a 1/4.
Okay.
Wit is a 1/4.
Okay.
And spirit is a 1/4.
Okay.
Your perks are radiation and acid resistance.
So yeah, radiation resistance, acid resistance.
Resistance.
Those count as 2 separate perks.
Your knocks are non-human
Okay.
and hazardous environment oxygen.
Are you an alien?
Mm-hmm.
Apart from statting out some essential gear. Perks and knocks are, I think, are what is going to take Stephen and I a lot of time to like flesh out and to give like, okay, do we have enough that covers what most people are going to be interested in terms of mechanical or narrative interest, and are they balanced well?
So if I put dice into, say, might, does that mean that's the base for everything under might? Or
Yes.
So anything I add to it, like any skill points I put on, are on top of...
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's like the Rippers where they add dice. Well, your max could be 4 for might. If you add 2 skill points, your pool would still be 6, not like capped at 4.
Yeah, those caps are just for the attributes themselves. So naturally, your skills, if you're going to pump dice into that, are going to be higher than your attribute max. Yeah. So you could have, say, 4 dice in might and 6 dice in brawling. That's absolutely a thing that could happen. There's no real upper bound to skills.
Okay.
It's harder to get.
There's a soft counterbalance because the more you pump into one skill, the worse you are at literally everything else. And so you become hyper-specialized and unable to really function well. Yeah.
You're
So
going
you'll be really good at that. Yeah. You're really good at that one thing.
Just call me in when you need me. I got it. I'm strapped to a V2, ready to go.
Right. So you're really good at vigor, so you can survive the blast, the re-entry, and the explosion.
You'll be fine, don't worry.
Well, at least given the current system, Vigor does not seem overly useful.
It is your base for hit points, so
Yes.
don't
It is your
forget
base.
that.
It is your base for hit points. So you do have to pump a little bit in there.
Will this be like Savage World, where if I dump Spirit and then I get spooked by literally everything?
No, that won't be the case.
Are you sure? No, it's not the case.
At this current point, that is not the case.
just roll a D4 for
Now
effort.
there's a defense that involves spirit, which allows you to resist mental and supernatural attacks in place of, say,
like
some other defense.
Right.
Right.
That's where that comes.
Yeah,
the
that comes into
save.
play there.
Yeah.
And of course, it affects your relations naturally, so that's where you get your face character.
What are you thinking, Rachel?
Trying to decide. I'm torn between a couple. What about you, Lance?
I don't know. I could just go out there and throw for just human. Works fine.
It's kind of what I was leaning towards, too. I know Jason's probably leaning towards robot, so...
I'm not even thinking about it right now.
Okay.
I'll get to it as soon as everybody else is.
Well, I know your
done.
inclination towards AI, so
Sure. Yeah.
you're probably the main reason that we have robots in the system.
Yes. That's absolutely true.
I mean, it'd be like, I know Steven's going to play a cat person. You know what I mean? Like, I know you're probably going to be...
Anthro is in there because of him, and then
robots are in because of me.
aliens are because I think both of us, and then robots are...
These are the deals you had to strike with each other.
We just had
No,
to
that
add
was assumed.
humans because
Yeah.
everybody wants humans.
Yeah. Also, it's good to have that fish out of water scenario because that works perfectly for humans from, like, it's tentatively called Earth Prime or, Earth 1 or whatever, the main shard where our actual Earth exists, right? Those humans going to those other shards are like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, here I am in a place where everyone's, like, singing lobsters or whatever. I don't know how to deal with this.
What are the attributes for the Theron? Probe?
You got 12 and 7 for your dice to spend. Might is a 2-6, Vigor is a 1-6, Agility is a 1-5, Wits is a 0-4, and Spirit is a 1-4. You've got a single perk of Therianthropic Transformation, which gives you humanoid, hybrid, and feral. And then you've got the knocks, which are physical weakness to silver and fire, and non-human.
Which is more contextual, social.
When you actually show them.
I mean, sure, there may be situations that a GM will just sort of determine that has a mechanical kind of effect, right? Because this bacteria only affects humans or non-humans or whatever. But mostly, it's like don't expect to pass through like a Nazi checkpoint where they're mostly made up of regular ass human Nazis if you like haven't like shaved. or you're not in your human form.
Human form,
Right.
Yeah.
Is the average for the human just 5 straight across, or is it 4?
1s and 4s straight
and
across. That's human average.
Yeah, the default is 1 minimum, 4 maximum. Because it does still hew to Mini 6 and the old Star Wars system, where like you're probably not going to get above 4 in an attribute, especially if you're playing a human, because it's a special case thing.
Pushing pretty hard to get that.
So that tries to keep it does keep some of the numbers down so the dice pool doesn't inflate way too much.
So you don't break the game.
Right.
Can I hear the mid maxes for the rodent people?
Sure.
Are they actually different for each animal, or are they just...
Yeah, they've got slight tweaks. I had a general formula for it. They mostly differ in the perks.
Oh, wait, that's right, because this is the animal person, not the thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
They're both animal people, but one of them is always an animal person.
Right, yeah. The anthro category is like you're always that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not, like, muscle-bound and beefy in comparison. Necessarily. So, Miraday, you're looking at a might of 0.3, vigor of 1.5, agility of 1.4, wit of 2.6, and spirit of 1.4, with the perk Tinkerer and the knock non-human.
What is Tinker?
Probably
Just
bonus on
control
your
F.
engineering skill. Or knowledge skill.
You've got a mind for machines and engineering. Once per session, you can double your roll on an engineering check.
Okay. And it's 12 and 7.
Yep, 12 and 7.
No, I don't believe.
That's what I'm going to do.
I'm
I'm going to be a mouse person.
I believe the design intent for that was to double the result rather than the number of dice. Because it's just easier to do that
Yeah.
instead of rolling. You get into Shadowrun.
Shadowrun levels of dice.
You're 12,
It's the choose before you get the result if you want to use that thing, like after you roll.
Yeah, I don't know if we actually have that set in stone, but I could see it go either way, where you're like, oh, that was kind of poor, but I want this to succeed. I'm going to use my once per session ability to double it. Because most of the time, people don't enjoy gambles unless they're a really good gamble. There's nothing worse
Those
than...
people are mistaken.
I have no idea what I want my cat person to actually do.
Risk mitigation. Well, you've got a number of options. I highly recommend everybody has combat skills of some sort.
I was waiting to
This
see where the
is-
items were because I assumed we had to take the trait in the item.
I can pull those up. Yeah, we've got categories. Let's see. So for melee, we've basically broken it down into 4 types of weapons, and then effectively a small version and a large version. So for example, hatchet, which includes hand axes and the like, and then axe, which includes things like battle axes, fire axes, and pickaxes. So you can kind of think of it that way. The way I've got it ordered is the smaller version, larger version. So hatchet, axe, knife, blade, club, staff, short spears, and polearms.
And that allows you to peg a mechanical, to peg numbers to your weapon, but not necessarily to
Write out every single weapon.
right, and not necessarily to restrict you to a particular kind of weapon in that umbrella. They're purposely categories so that if you want a baseball bat with barbed wire over it, right, there's a category that fits under, right? So you can sort of explain the aesthetic of the thing and the function of the thing, but the mechanics stay the same, right?
Okay.
So 2 people can have the same mechanical weapon, but the aesthetics are different.
In terms of ranged weapons, we've got slingshots. We've got the mixture of bow/harpoon gun, crossbow, light small arms, handguns. Heavy small arms, more so revolver versions of handguns. Medium arms, which include SMGs. Long arms, which are rifles and carbines. Shotguns. And then precision arms, which includes things like sniper rifles, anti-material rifles, and the like.
Not that you'll have access to an anti-material rifle.
Yeah, not right off the gate.
Come on.
You might find one, but often you're being thrown into a location expected to blend in, and it's difficult to
What were
blend
these
in.
sharp melee objects?
Like blade or knife or blade, like those. So knife includes things like cleaver, a combat knife, a stiletto. A blade includes things like swords, katana. Really any iteration of something with sword in the name.
Could they have trident?
I'd put that under polearm.
Yeah. Or spear. If there's a
Polearm is long spear, effectively. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're about the same size as spear, just 3 pronged.
So the 12 is what you break up between might,
not
wit,
quite
vigor,
like that.
agility, and spirit?
Yeah,
Yep.
12 dice to go into those attributes for you, and
Yeah.
then 7 dice to go into the skills.
Can we go over Theron's rope again? I don't know if I got it all down.
Unless you're there already.
I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can hover around like
Okay.
perks in here a bit.
So, gear, what would the stats be on that polearm?
7, 2, 6.
Polearm, that is a
6.
medium weight item,
That was wrong.
and its qualities are that it's a 1d6 plus 2, and that's effectively added onto the roll. Right?
Yeah, that's plus 1d6 plus 2. Because it is a melee weapon, you add your might. Whatever your might dice is, right? Then you
Okay.
add the the dice of the weapon as well.
The weapon quality dice.
Right.
Okay.
Now, medium means that it takes 1 slot in your inventory.
Mm-hmm. And then how about your harpoon gun?
Harpoon gun. That is a medium weight as well, so that is 1 slot. Its range is long. And unlike your melee weapons, these have flat damage values. So 3d plus 1 has a rate of fire of 1, and it is two-handed. You are now ready to harpoon a Nazi.
Now, in order to start with those
Or
items,
jumps.
naturally, as we said before, you've got to have to put dice in,
Mhm.
ranged,
Yeah.
harpoon gun, and then
When I was
melee,
asking about the
trident.
items so that I
Yeah.
knew
Mhm.
specifically what to stat.
Yeah.
What's traversal?
That's so where survival is using like technology or something else to help you get over an environment. Traversal is anything you personally can do. It's parkour, it's athleticism, it's swimming, it's jumping, it's climbing.
Okay.
Yep. Anything that you can do without necessarily tools, although tools could assist you in doing it. Dog whistle continues. I know it's
What would be an example of something under a knowledge skill?
Knowledge, chemistry.
Knowledge computers? Would that be applicable in this universe?
It depends.
Yeah, aliens.
Well,
Knowledge technology? Would that be better?
no, that would be more under engineering.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I need to know. Okay.
If you wanted to be sort of good with tech, no matter where it comes from,
Mm-hmm.
especially being able to, say, reverse engineer something, or you're in a different shard, and you've got something that kind of plays by, if you're human, say, plays by human technology rules, you're like, okay, I can see how this works. And to figure out how it works, you'd be using engineering rather than knowledge blank or whatever.
Okay.
Think of knowledge
It's the
being
vacuum
more...
tubes.
Academic?
More academic stuff. Right?
Okay.
Anthropology, psychology, military history, blah,
Okay.
blah, blah.
Of course,
Cool.
engineering is going to be more applied.
Yeah.
How might stamina be useful?
Stamina is good for... those are situations where you might have to make like a constitution save if
Okay.
you're, if you're overexerting yourself.
Or
It's
I
also...
didn't have my chlorine for a hot minute.
It's also useful for, say, if you want to move more than your sort of movement rate, your base movement rate. You could roll, say, stamina or traversal, and then you'd be able to move that many more feet, depending on what the result was.
No problem. So we're just going to throw the right column. Let's do that. That sounds fun.
Who needs all that metaphysical stuff?
Well, the good thing is if you, again, sort of the skills will default to the attribute values, right? So if you've got 2 dice and, wit.
Oh, no. We're for real throwing it. 1 and 1.
Okay, well, you've still got 1 dice
Yeah.
in engineering, 1 dice in medicine. So it's not impossible, just you're probably not going to succeed on complicated
Difficult
rolls.
things.
And that's by design.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other weapons, gear questions?
So, like, the special for range would be precision weapons, or would it be
Yeah.
like a specific?
Well, you would say ranged and then a specific weapon, actually.
Okay.
Not a category of weapons, because that would be too broad.
So you could call it like sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Like right down sniper rifle
Because
and
I
crossbow.
thought, because I figured precision were all sniper rifles, basically.
What
That's
are
in
the-
terms of like item categorization. So they're mechanically the same thing, but
Oh, because I guess that has like the anti-material rifle
Yeah.
and the sniper rifle, which
Yeah.
would be 2 different things.
They're narratively speaking, and also in terms of acquisitions, 2 different things, right? And the skill sets may overlap, but not 100%, right? So that's why we ask you for specialization to nail down the thing.
hard definition.
What are the specifics for the crossbow weapon? Am I allowed to have that when we start?
Yeah, I mean, you're allowed to have just about, as long as you
Not
put
the
dice
anti-material.
into ranged crossbow, you start with a crossbow, yeah.
Great.
Okay, I think we got halfway through. Is weighty and heavy different?
Yes.
Okay. It is a weighty item, which I think means 2
That means
slots?
1.5 slots.
1.5 slots.
So the way that it works is that for inventory, and we're kind of getting a little bit ahead here,
Yeah.
because you keep asking all these fucking questions.
It's my fault. I asked too many questions.
So the way the gear works is that you have a number of slots equal to twice the number of might dice. That's ignoring pips. It's just straight dice. So if you had 3 might dice, you have 6 slots. Does that make sense? And then the weight category of the item will tell you how many slots it takes up. Mini requires no slots. Light is half of a slot. Medium is 1 slot. Weighty, which that word may change, I came up with it earlier today, is 1.5 slots.
Since I couldn't help it.
It's between medium and heavy. Does that make sense?
Then I
and-
need something that's like mini or light because I am a mouse.
And then heavy is 2 slots.
Literally, I have 1 might die in might.
But you do get to double that.
So it's 2.
Yeah.
But still.
You'd have half a slot left if you want to stick with the crossbow.
Yeah, I probably should have more than half a slot left.
Your call.
So what are some light weapons?
Sling, light small arms, so
Those are for
handguns.
ranged, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm looking for ranged always. I don't want to get close to anybody. I have 1 might.
Those are the 2 options.
I will take a handgun. That's fine.
Okay. As mentioned, weight light, range short. And its qualities are 3D for the damage and rate of fire 1.
Okay.
Wait, what's reflex for agility?
Reflex is like,
Dexterity.
think of it like
save.
evasion. Yeah, like a dexterity save, right.
Is that something that's used a lot?
Reflex is what determines
I was
your evade defense, which is what is used most
Probably
often.
put that under polearm. So that's going to be a medium weight.
You know how
so it takes up
evade
1
was
slot.
in Rippers. That was your primary defense, unless contextually something was.
And then
better
its
for you,
qualities
made more
are
sense.
plus 1d plus 2. So that gets added on to your might.
So if we try to roll a medicine check and we don't have a any pips in medicine, do we just roll with wit? Or we don't get to roll at all?
You could roll. It's just that you would default to wit.
Okay, that's what I want to check. So if we don't put anything in reflex, we can still use just our base agility
Yes.
to evade. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, your attributes determine your baseline on the skills.
That's what I
What
thought.
skill is that again? Forms large.
You just put down scythe because it goes to the extreme specific item that you were trained with
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
for melee, right? Yeah.
Well, for all weapons, the idea is that you pick a specific weapon that you're good with. That way, everyone's not some kind of like weird jack of all trades. Like, as long as this thing has a trigger, like I can pick it up and use it just the same as I would anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But a bazooka and a derringer are two very different things.
Now, if you happen to have a very high agility, then
And functionally,
you'll be a good base, but
but your specialization, your skill, the time you put into like really learn that weapon won't apply. And by all rights, it shouldn't.
Trying to
So-
decide if I want a bow or a rifle.
bow's medium, and if you're doing like a regular rifle and not a sniper, you're looking at weighty. Both of them are long range.
Sniper 2.
The rifle does 4d plus
There's
2.
a heavy,
The
so
bow
two
does
sides.
3d plus 1. Both of them are two-handed. And while the bow is rate of fire 1, the long arm is rate of fire 2.
One thing to note. So we already explained the die code thing. Like if you're adding, if you would have 3 pips, you just bump up to the next dice, right? In terms of skills, again, remember you don't have to put all of your skill dice in skills right now. You could save some to buy perks, right? But you can't put more than 2 dice to a skill in character creation. That's the one sort of
Caveat.
kind of caveat there. Now, it's unlikely that somebody's going to I'm just going to dump 4 dice into this one skill and just be meager in like other respects. Right?
7 dice in ranged pistols.
But that's just there so that you're encouraged to branch out a little bit, and so that you don't get ridiculous dice pulls at the very beginning of the game. Now later, when you're advancing your character and using your XP or whatever, you want to buy more skill dice. Have at it.
Your prerogative. It might bite you in the ass.
Would things like binoculars be like a mini slot or whatever?
Yeah, that stuff is kind of like hand wave general equipment.
Because that's what it would be for perception. What would be an item for Black Ops?
A sap. No, that's a club.
So if you're looking for something that doesn't have like mechanics to it per se, then it could be something as simple as like ball bearings, a black hood or something like that.
Inflicle.
Something that you could use in a particular circumstance, but it is otherwise like doesn't have a wide array of applications.
I think that'd be for a reflex. The 10-foot pole, you're just a gymnast. Use it as a balancing tool.
So if you ever do any wire walking, you can,
Yeah. I suppose that would technically fall under traversal, though.
Yes,
Traversal.
Because you're traversing a wire.
Got me there.
Don't know the system super well, but I know it well enough.
Lockpicks for ops?
That would make sense.
that would
yeah.
qualify. Yeah. I mean, the system, because of my particular interests, it has very little interest in tracking the minutia of inventory and consumables and stuff like that. So if you just want to have a lockpick set, or like a rake and file, great.
If
We'll
it's a tiny thing, you probably have.
Yeah. If it's a minor thing, you would probably have. You just start with it.
We save the bean counting for the praxis system.
So what's armor look like?
We've got a couple of choices. The big catch with armor is that it's heavy.
Takes up slots. So
Yep. And it's going to take up slots pretty damn quickly.
Heavy being 2 slots.
Depends on what you're looking at. So a leather helmet is light, so that's half a slot. You could get a flak helmet, which is more like metal helmet. That's going to be 1 full slot. You've got 4 different vest qualities, or vest armors. You've got a trench coat for light. You've got carrier plates for medium. You've got flak jacket for weighty. And you've got breastplate for heavy.
Okay.
and those apply. Those give you flat armor values for the item that you've chosen. Like carrier plates give you 3 armor.
Reduce all damage you take by 3.
Wouldn't be able to have head armor. So what would the body armor? What's the medium body armor you mentioned?
Medium is carrier plates,
Okay.
so that's 1 slot, and 3 armor.
What about the trench coat?
That is light, so half a slot for only 1 armor.
It's okay, because that's what I can handle.
You also have shields. There's a wooden, which is heavy and 5 armor. And then there's the metal shield, which is heavy and 8 armor.
So what's the breastplate armor?
Heavy, so 2 slots, and counts for 9 points of armor.
What
Now, mind you,
What with the carrier plate, 3 armor? I'm
armor
assuming
always
I
has
couldn't
to make
have
sense for where you're going.
because I have to.
You're not necessarily going to be
Right.
slapping like
So
full-on
going with that,
breastplate
I'm
on if you're
basically
doing
going
more of a
for
stealth
a
mission.
low-tech version of
But-
Predator.
In this case, I would say, yeah, they would allow that since there's basically an assault plan.
Just take off your mask and
I
everyone
think
will
I'm
freak
gonna
out.
go with the bow.
That's the goal
Okay.
here.
It's a ranged
3
bow.
light,
Do we
4
need to pick
vigor,
a
3
specific type
agility.
of bow?
to
I mean, you can
trident
pick one if
harpoon
you would like to. You could do like longbow, recurve bow, but bow in general will work.
I feel like they're all fairly similar enough that it's not unreasonable for me to just go with bow as a general.
Yeah, it's as detailed as you want it to be in that regard.
Okay.
If you're really into recurve bows, then call it a recurve bow, but the mechanics are the same. It does 3d plus 1 damage, has a rate of fire of 1, and is 2-handed.
I like this.
It fires to long range.
Can you go over the armor again?
Sure. Any particular category you're looking at? Vest, helmet, or shield?
Probably vest and helmet.
Okay. How much weight do you want to spend?
I have 2 left.
2 slots.
2 full slots? You could do carrier plates and a flak helmet. You could do a flak jacket and a leather hat.
Well, a leather helmet, not just a
Yeah.
hat.
Yeah.
Just get that from the haberdasher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
Those
is
sweet red
the
mage
plate
hats.
and the hat, the flak hat?
The carrier plates are a medium, so they take up a slot, and then the flak helmet is also medium, so they take up your other slot. So it'd be 2 slots. And what that would give you is 6 armor, 3 per item.
What's the armor right below the
The what?
the
Carrier?
They're just the
Carrier.
2. There's
Flak jacket, which is
leather
weighty,
helmet,
so
that's
1.5
half a
for 6
flak
armor.
helmet.
And
No,
that's
I
might
meant
be
one
something.
below, like weight wise.
Oh, trench coat, which is light, and 1 armor.
The leather helmet, is that light as well?
Mm-hmm.
Leather helmet's light as well. Yeah.
Great,
that's
so I
your
can
half.
have that.
There you go.
Is
That-
that
so
another-
those 2 combined, the trench coat and the leather helmet, would take up 1 slot.
Yeah,
Mhm.
They're
that's
both
why I can.
halves,
And
right?
I
Yeah.
guess that's for a bow.
And is that another 1 armor? The helmet?
Yes, leather helmet's 1 and trench coat's 1. So altogether, you'd have 2.
Bow
armor.
takes up 1 spot.
Great.
It is a medium. And what was the other question?
No,
The arrows.
the armor value
Don't worry about ammo.
helps to
Yep.
determine.
It's considered part of the item.
It helps determine your soak value, which is straight reduced from damage if you're hit.
Okay.
But we say that it's not an armor value because there may be special bonuses due to,
Your particularly resilient leather skin.
or you have been buffed by a allied sorcerer's energy shield or whatever. That gives you a passive soak bonus for this long, right?
So, all the skills start at whatever we have in our
What was-
attributes,
Yes.
and then the skill dice are to add on top of that.
Yes.
Yep.
Got it.
What were the stats for this?
Would you like to say a quick thing about ammunition?
Yes. Ammunition. Tracking ammunition is garbage in a game.
That's fair.
It's dull, bean counting, and unless you're playing a very specific kind of game, which is sort of survivalist, and not to knock that kind of game. If that's what you want, and that's great.
It's not the game you want.
This is not that game.
This is not that game. This is not Praxis.
Yes.
It's very
Those-
opposite ends of the
those are
spectrum.
very
Not
different
Praxis or
design
Ryutama.
ideas.
Yeah, or
Right.
Ryutama.
So
I liked it.
I wanted it to be fun.
So we don't. So we
It
don't
was
track.
fun to me.
So we don't track ammo.
Okay, cool.
The assumption is that you have enough bullets on hand or whatever to make the attack happen, right? Unless, say, you are rolling an attack and you roll a 1 on the wild die. That introduces what we call a wrinkle, right? Which means that the GM can say, okay, this unfortunate thing happens to you, right? One of those unfortunate things may be you're out of ammo for that weapon now.
So it's like the Fallout system.
Yeah. Yeah, so it would be like you'd spend that, the GM might spend that to go, okay, you're out of ammo now. So at that point, you'd have to, kind of holster or sheath that weapon and find something else. Or you might be able to have on you, as an item, or find in the field, munitions for allied weapons and access weapons. And that would allow you to basically say, okay, I'm good to go. I've reloaded. So now I don't have to worry about ammo.
Yep.
It's just a simple kind of binary on or off thing. Either you have ammo or you don't.
I'm trying to remember the weights for those munitions. I think they are either weighty or heavy. I would actually have to pop that open.
To prevent you from loading up on just like bandoliers and magazines and just buckets of shurikens and shit. Just you're balancing from your arms.
Because you're already kind of expected to look a little like that.
Yeah, I mean, you already have a lot of...
So what's the stance on the sniper rifle?
The sniper rifle?
You've got a heavy item, so that's 2 slots.
I can handle it.
It is extreme range, and it does 6d damage. Has a rate of fire of 1, so ROF 1. 2-handed,
Oh, you got the sniper tank.
and it ignores armor value.
There's more than one.
You can be a guy with a gun. It's fine.
No, I was specifically already had the sniper and everything else.
Great, you got some
Yeah,
snipers.
You can have 2 snipers.
Spotters, right?
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spot each other.
Well, my character is either right up in your face or really far away, so
Typical extremes.
yeah.
So, survival. What if I'm thinking just like a standard kind of roughing it out in the wilderness survival?
So that would be something along the lines of survival,
So what was
outdoorsmanship,
60.
or something to that effect, right?
Okay.
Wilderness.
Yeah.
Very far one.
What was the fun word we'd come up with?
For what?
Before we settled on survival, there was one
Right,
that hit
yeah.
that I feel like would kind of encompass that because it was very naturalistic. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
Druidcraft?
No, that's a little too mystical. I'll keep thinking. about it.
Bushcraft? Is that it?
That's pretty close.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Another day.
Just come here. No, I didn't buy you squeaky toy.
I'm gonna thesaurus outdoorsmanship.
Just come here.
No, just do SMG. Put 15 dice into my pool.
Very sticky breath.
And then
What's that? Lick you in the face?
Right in the mouth.
and get all of them.
Oh.
Different ones.
No. Just no. No more popcorn. Gave him one piece.
Once they get a taste.
So,
I remember he loves popcorn.
He does love popcorn.
it just that reminded me talking about ranged weapons. I don't know if it's intuitive or not, but ranged weapons don't add on to any attribute. They're just flat damage, right? As opposed to the melee weapons, they have might, right?
You
Because
mean I can't have like 5D for my handgun? Come on.
no, it doesn't matter how strong you are. You're still pulling a trigger, and that gun sort of determines.
Yeah.
What if
What
you're
the
running
damage is.
with the gun?
Relativistically speaking, you're not really adding that.
So,
There you are.
wait, I'm sorry. Can you run that by me again?
Melee weapons, their damage is listed as plus some amount of dice and pips, right? Which means that you would take your might dice, the attribute dice, and then add those dice onto it, and that's what you'd roll for your damage.
Okay.
So if you were using a hatchet, which adds 1d, and you had might of 3d, you'd be rolling 4d to determine the damage of the hatchet.
Okay.
Right. And then ranged weapons, they just have a flat value. Like that's how many dice you roll, how many pips you add, whatever. Crossbow, for instance, is 4d plus 1. So you roll 4d6, add 1 to the result.
Okay.
That's your damage.
So, what are the skill points next to the weapons specifically, like melee and range? What do those do?
Add to hit.
Yeah, add to hit. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I see. The damage versus to hit.
Because you could conceivably pick up like a ranged weapon and then just use your agility, or you could use your specialization, ranged sniper rifle, and get a better chance to hit. Right?
Okay.
Years of experience.
So what is everybody kind of the best at? Like, what kind of characters did everybody else make?
I hope you picked killing,
Yeah.
because killing's important,
I'm good at punching people.
which is
Okay.
step 1 to kill
All right.
on a multi-step process.
So seeing people
Step
and
one,
shooting
punching people.
Seeing
Step two,
people and
question
shooting people?
mark.
Is that what
Step
you're good
three,
at?
profit.
Okay.
I never done perception.
No, we never dump perception.
I never done perception.
I can't.
Personally, I always
It's
boost it as much as I can.
Yeah.
There's been too many times where you've fallen in a hole and died.
I am that. I am that person who I hate when I don't know something's coming. So yeah, I always have perception.
It's not like a villain got super tetanus or anything.
I'm the only one
I
who
saw
didn't
it.
get super
Yeah,
tetanus.
I saw that coming. That's
That was
the problem.
something else.
Okay, so you see and punch people, Zach.
No, I see and shoot.
You see and shoot people.
I
Robert punches people.
Yeah.
am going for kind of a low-tech version of Predator. I stab
Nice.
people, I shoot them.
Okay.
I might see them once in a while.
The old predator.
Like I can jump, I can transverse things. I got my stamina up in case I need to make that extra. I want to stab you with my trident.
Okay.
So as I'm hearing this, there's now a requirement that while you are dying, you need to be laughing. You need to just enjoy it.
Get to the job.
Jason, have you even made a character yet?
I don't get that.
No, I have not. We'll do that in a minute.
Okay. Maria, what is your character going to be good at?
I'm still kind of trying to piece that together.
Okay.
I was actually looking up lore on the predator species to the Yautja.
Well, I put some in. My highest is agility and then wit, and I have some in black ops and ranged and engineering and perception. So, but I intentionally did not make this character super shitty at spirit, so she might actually know if someone hates her. For once,
You're a rat person. Everyone hates you.
I'm a mouse person, so I'm cuter than a rat.
Close
Thank
enough.
Nice.
If there had been a weasel option, I would be a ferret right now. I'm just gonna tell you. Right
Filthy pigeons of the land.
now. I'm just gonna tell you right now. I'm goddamn adorable.
Fucking secret nim over here.
There you go, yeah.
My trench coat and helmet with my black fur. I'm hard to see, which is the point.
I mean, you are full leather armor, so
I am.
yeah, you could have just fallen out of like a. My brain keeps saying feral, but I need what a king is like leading. What's the F term for that? Feudal.
Feudal,
You
yeah.
fell out of a feudal world.
Yeah, I'm trying to picture like what kind of realm my character would have come from, because so far, like, everything about them screams he may have literally picked them up out of, like, a D&D universe.
Mm-hmm.
But,
And there's conceivably some shards that are like that. Right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where society fell apart, or they're in a new dark age, or something like
Or
that.
it's literally like, magic exists as a force of, experiential reality in this genre.
She's not
Mhm.
magical so much as just
Well,
the
right.
bows or the weapon she uses are kind of archaic.
Mm.
And I'm picturing her as growing up in kind of like a sort of an outdoorsy environment.
See, I took engineering and Black Ops so I could like stealth around and like hack things and know technology somewhat.
Good.
And you'll be happy to know I did do a vague stat up for Ferret.
Fantastic. I will play a ferret. It's okay. Just saying. If I can't own one, I will play one. And someone has already expressed no desire for a ferret.
They're adorable noodles.
Is one of them also Leon?
Here's a
No.
deciding factor.
No, Leon's been around ferrets before and he's fine.
Oh.
Because I had ferrets with my ex-husband.
I'm thinking she's probably... She's probably from a place where, like, survival is really rough and everybody knows how to fight. I'm kind of building
Detroit?
Gary.
Indiana.
Gary.
Gary.
When is this? This might be the high time for Detroit. And we need somewhere that was backwater back then.
I'll have an accident in my car before I stop to use restroom, Gary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's bad.
Even then,
Pee in the bottle.
I would be pretty tempted to just be like, throw it in neutral and just push your car on the highway. That's safer. Just never get off the highway.
So very, like, I guess combat focused. I mean, most of us are pretty combat focused. but,
Yeah,
like,
everybody is supposed to be combat focused, usually with a side maybe of something else.
so I guess combat and then also survival.
That can be enough.
That's good enough.
Okay.
Though I have combat with a side of combat.
Also
It's different
acceptable.
sides of combat. Yeah.
I did as little combat as I felt like I could still survive with skullduggery and intelligence. So,
I haven't played any in Horizon Zero Dawn, but I'm picturing kind of like that
Oh,
type
cool.
of character.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
With the Robotech dinosaurs. That's here.
She doesn't, I mean,
I wanna see
none
this.
of her weapons are like robo-tech, I guess, unless I really want them to be. And even then, I don't know like what that would actually do.
Like that's a setting I've wanted to write for Praxis.
Yeah.
Because it is so focused on survivalism that I think it would work really well together.
I guess the best I could do is maybe her scythe is like collapsible or something.
Do some neat stuff.
Like it folds out so it's easier to carry.
Lore question. Since we are the Reichbusters, does that mean all characters come from a shard which has dealt with Nazis in some way, shape, or form?
Yes.
Cool.
So that's the lore assumption, right? Basically, the Reichbuster headquarters are on Earth Prime, right? Or are Earth, right? And the members of the Reichbusters organization have gone out into these different shards to try to counter Nazi activity. And in doing so, they have recruited members of those shards who have shown particular promise or who have, shown to them a sort of a dedication against like these Nazi incursions. And they've sort of put them through the rigors and they become a Reichbuster. They join the team. Right. And so the assumption is that if you're creating a character in Reichbusters, you have familiarity with Nazi incursions at least in your shard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you come from Earth, now you may not necessarily know.
What kind of time period is this? Is this like
It's about 1950, right?
Post-war, technically, but it's basically turned into a dimensional Cold War.
Yes.
Now I can't get Enterprise out of my head. It was the coolest part of it, but they didn't do anything cool with it.
Yep.
Gah.
should tell our kid good night. Dear. Before you start with my character.
All right. Any other questions on equipment? Is anybody curious about perks?
Yes.
Okay. So we've done a light organization of them, and again, we don't have a lot of them yet. We are open to suggestions, and may work some of these in on the fly. We'll see. But perks currently break down into general perks, supernaturally focused perks, biological perks, technological perks, and, not appearing in this film, psionic perks.
I like some of those.
Mm-hmm. And those, I've laid stuff out, but I actually want to like sit down and get a better understanding about how other mini D6 systems do those.
Do that, yeah.
So I'm not whole clothing something that is horrifically unbalanced or out of character. In terms of general perks, there's Tough, which comes in 3 different flavors, 1, 2, and 3 point. You gain 2 body points per rank. There's Tinker, which our rat folk friend or mouse folk friend has, which again, you have a mind for machines and engineering. Once per session, you can double the result on an engineering check. And finally, under general, we have vocal mimicry for a single point, single pip. You gain the ability to perfectly mimic a voice or sound you've heard for at least a minute.
Those perks cost dice.
Dice,
pips.
sorry. Not
Just to be
pips,
clear.
dice.
You got 1 whole dice?
The number
Yeah.
is dice. Yeah. So if you have 3 pips, you could buy a perk worth 1 dice. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just so that people aren't just like picking up perks just because they have
Pips.
a pip or 2 left
Yeah.
over. That's the economy is not right for
So what exactly is a body point?
So body points are your hit points.
health points.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
both health points.
We
They
get
used,
updates.
they used to be called body points,
Cool.
but now
Health
they're just
points.
health points.
Okay.
And let me find the calculation for those.
It's your might dice, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think it's...
Might times 7.
Is it Might 7 or is it Vigor 7?
I think it's Vigor 7 is what
And
you
then
said.
Might 3?
Yes, Vigor 7, Might 3.
Cool.
So take the number of Vigor dice, multiply it by 7. Then take the number of Might dice, multiply it by 3. And then add those 2 numbers together, and that's how many hit points you have.
I'm
Health
going to
points.
have a lot of hit points anyway, so...
That'll be good. You'll get shot a lot. As in, everybody will get shot a lot.
Vigor times 3 and might times 3?
No.
Vigor times 7.
Vigor
might
times 7.
3.
14.
So Vigor will give you tons of hit points, and Might will give you a little bit of hit points. That way, there's kind of a character difference between kind of a knight, per se, and an archer, where a knight's going to be Might and Vigor, they're going to have more health in general, where an archer might be more Vigor and agility.
Wait,
That would be me.
what? Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So your health points are calculated as so. You will take the dice in Vigor and multiply that number of dice by 7.
Okay.
You will then add your might times 3. So number of might dice times 3. And add those 2 together, and that is your total hit points.
Which, mathematically speaking, should give you an even number.
Okay, so
No.
back to perks.
What'd you
Back
get?
to
23.
So what did you have?
That's 14.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 37.
3 times 3 is 9.
Yeah, you're multiplying by 3. That's going to give you another number.
Okay.
Every other. Yeah. And 7. Okay.
Well, I'm not the math person.
That's my job, kind of.
I'm very squishy.
Supernaturally focused ones. We have Undeath, which I think you already start with.
Yeah.
So I'll go through that one just so you're fully familiar with what that is. You're no longer alive, but you're not exactly dead either. There's this gray in between in which you currently exist. You no longer need food, water, or sleep. However, neglecting your body may have side effects. So in your case, blood is important.
Yeah.
Sleep probably is still important, but it's a little different. Okay. For 3 points, there's Undying, which is attached to zombies. Basically, think Revenant. where even if you're killed, you'll come back to life, and even if you're completely destroyed, you can still potentially come back from that.
Stitch yourself up.
Yeah, it takes magic or other weird stuff to permanently kill you, hence why it costs 3. There's shape-shifting, which comes in 2 flavors. The 2 dice value is imperfect, in which case there's some sort of flaw or limitation to your shape-shifting. And then for 3 points, there is perfect shape-shifting, where it is exactly to something else. So for example, imperfect, if you did that with a vampire, you could kind of turn into a wolf if you want to stick with vampire mythos.
Or bat.
Yeah, or a bat, but you might have something where you've got, like, I don't know, Gary
Or
Busey
cloud.
face as a wolf or something weird like that.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, where there's something very clear that it's like, that is not what you were actually supposed to have turned into.
Are you sure you're not supposed to turn into Gary Busey?
It could be. That might be your perfect transformation. You might just shapeshift into Gary Busey. That's fine. But that's 3 dice to be able to do that, so keep that in mind. And you can only maintain that shape-shifting for 30 minutes at a time. There's the other 3 tier for that, which is associated with ghosts. Intangible. And that's one we are still working out. But the basics is, yeah, you can float through stuff. You can pass through physical matter, however, it does not allow you to fly. There is a difference.
Because otherwise,
It's just super broken.
yeah.
Now it's just kind of broken.
Then you just keep on falling if you're just intangible because you have no ground to stand on.
He's not giving you popcorn either, but nudging him.
So the way I'd run intangible is it's the effect of saying the floor exists, but walls don't. So you can't climb a wall while you're intangible.
But you could climb stairs.
Exactly. It's that weird, like, we need something that makes sense in terms of game mechanics, but lore really doesn't make sense.
So you can't go out of bounds, but you can go through walls and things.
Yeah. You can no clip, but you no clip without flying or falling. It's weird. Collision kind of applies. Vertical collision applies. Okay, biologically focused
And you can edge
perks.
clip, but you can't
For
go
1
through
die,
them.
Bloodhound. You have a sharp sense of smell, specifically for blood. You can follow trails of blood, determine species, and detect some oddities within it.
What was that?
Bloodhound. For 2 dice, echolocation. Exactly what it sounds like on the tin. Allows you to naturally navigate in complete darkness, and you can make perception checks without requiring vision.
How many is that?
2.
2.
Dice.
So what kind of knock do I have to take to
Get an extra dice.
That would be a major and a minor for 1 die.
Oh.
Knocks don't give you a whole bunch, but more importantly, they get you access to Buster points, which is honestly the better side of knocks. But the perks are still there.
Yeah, but functional night vision sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Night vision, on its own, is a 1 die.
Oh, okay.
You are able to see in low light situations, however, your vision is limited to grayscale in those situations. So
Not bad.
it's your standard dark vision at that point.
And I could get another dice for a major and a minor knock.
Yes, because a major knock gives you 2 pips and a minor knock gives you 1 pip, and you add those together, that's a new die.
Is that a pip for attribute or is that a pip for?
It's a
skill?
generic pip when you get it from a perk. So you could potentially use that to boost another attribute, but those are the prices you must pay.
So do you have just general major and minor knocks in the system, or are these things that I need to...
We've got a couple. I'll just go over the one technologically focused one we've got for perks. And that's just backup consciousness. And that's effectively like undying, but digitally speaking. And is usually saved for synthetics, cyborgs, and the like.
So is non-human a knock or a perk?
It is a knock. Let me look it up real quick.
Nazis really hate.
Because I think like all of us have that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, the vampire's the only
That's
one
right.
without.
Sorry.
Yeah, so non-human is you aren't human, and despite being close in
Stunned
shape, You can't pass for human. You earn a buster point when your non-human status serves as a stumbling block in your interaction with others.
Okay.
So do I pass
Do we-
as human when I'm in human form?
Most of the time, but if you're going up against the Nazis' Thule Society, they've studied supernatural. They may have tricks to be like,
Yeah,
okay,
just
here's
like
here's how
some
we're going to check
markers.
to see. Yeah. Oh, you got the hairy palms there. That means one of two things.
Do you get
And we know you don't do
It's
that.
a pituitary disorder.
pips for non-human then, or is it just
That's factored into the template.
okay?
Once you
alright.
get, anything you get with the template doesn't give you
Okay.
Anything else?
anything.
Yeah.
It's just
This
that's
is it
built
above
in.
and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you tell me what Tinkerer does exactly so I can write it down?
Sure.
Doubles one roll.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I want to know the
Yep.
specifics so I write it down right.
Once per session, you can double the result on an engineering check.
Okay, can you tell me what regeneration does? Because I have that as a perk.
What?
I think that was a base one.
Oh, you mean from the book?
I think so. Yeah.
So, because we don't have a lot of perks and knocks sort of statted out, some of them are being taken from the Mini 6 core book, which is what this is.
I clicked on, I think it's
Based
like
on-
the third result when I searched lists of small wildcats, and it just immediately took me to the spam page, and now I can't use my browser.
Can you exit out of it?
Fun.
Not unless I hit the OK button.
Abandon ship. Shut down
What
the
happens
phone.
if you spam back?
Oh, you know,
It
that
won't
that
take
might
me
be
to a
in
different page.
the core document.
I'll check
Could
it out real
you
quick.
Because a lot of them do.
completely exit out of
Wait,
your
I
browser
got
and
it.
open a new tab?
Did you get it?
Because you,
Yeah.
you should probably
Okay.
be able to
I
open up
think I
a new
might be
tab.
able.
Regeneration. You heal one
Okay.
or one. It says wound level.
I couldn't close the tab.
I guess
because
one
the
hit
pop-up
point per
window
hour
was preventing me
would be
from
our equivalent.
accessing it.
Well, that's why we're wondering if you could open up a new tab.
So if you can open up a new
Navigate
tab,
away.
then you can usually
I don't think I
look
can
at all your tabs.
access the window period when there's a
Okay, so
puzzle.
that's all the perks.
Yeah, that's all the perks outside of like the Mini 6 base stuff.
Yeah.
Which
There's not a lot of that.
We don't want to
anyway.
yeah.
How about some knocks?
Some knocks. Okay.
Some forts.
Yeah. And some of these, I realize I'm going to have to major and minor on the fly.
That's okay.
Yep. So we've got extreme allergy, a specific type of environment or item that is normally tolerable to most is deadly to you. It could be pollen or a specific element like iron. You receive a CP whenever your inability to cope with such an environment or element substantially affects you. Immediate exposure to your allergy takes your status to dazed, with normal penalties. For each 5-minute period after the first, you must make a stamina check to continue to endure the allergen. The second minute begins at very easy and increases by 1 degree every 5 minutes thereafter, so that goes up pretty hard. The degree of failure determines the resulting wound level and will eventually kill you. So that can be broken up into major and minor depending on what it is, how common it is, and how easy it is to circumvent. For example, things like the allergy to sunlight would be more of a minor if you can just put clothing on to protect you. However, if clothing didn't protect you, then that would be a major. Okay. We have Uncanny Valley. There's something physically off about you, maybe even more than that. You're in a CP if your imperfection serves as a stumbling block in your interaction with others. Mischief Maker, which is a minor.
What's Uncanny Valley? Major or minor?
Minor.
Okay, I think I want that. She just looks too good.
There you go. There's something just not quite. You look CGI. It's weird.
And not like 90s CGI,
Like the movie Final Fantasy CGI?
Advent Children?
No, the actual Final Fantasy titled one. Yeah.
Mm.
Where things are just, nope. Mischief Maker is a minor.
Like
You
the
can't
one-
pass up a good joke or can't help but pull pranks, often at inopportune times. You earn a CP if your trickster ways serve as a stumbling block in your interaction with others. So causing a stumble for somebody else will not count. You have to kind of screw yourself over to get the buster points out of it. That way it's not everybody trying to dick everybody else over.
So what's the major ones?
Physical barrier, which you can effectively think as similar to allergy, except you physically cannot pass over the substance. Ghosts have this with salt. They physically cannot cross over salt.
Okay.
So you could do something like minor would be uranium. That's not around. That would be a minor. Salt also is kind of in between a minor and a major, leaning a little bit more towards the minor side, honestly. It is common, but it is not commonly used.
Tree nuts.
Yeah, where if it's a specific enough where I would put it as uncommon, it can even be seasonal, which can cause problems, so that would be minor.
Mangoes.
Very seasonal. Whereas something
two
like
people who are
physical
like
barrier
mangoes.
major could be something like, say, iron shavings, which are a lot easier to come by, or, in the terms of vampires, private residence. It is physically impossible for you to enter a private residence without being invited in. Would be an example that you could add on to your vampire lore. Because you have base vampire, and you can basically tweak that how you want to. We didn't want to throw everything at you if you didn't want to have to deal with some of those nitpicky things like I can't cross running water, which would be a minor, but there you go. You've got addiction, which comes in both major and minor. That depends on how common the substance is. An addiction to alcohol or tobacco is minor, whereas an addiction to, say, a mad professor's unique serum or uranium that has specifically been refined for atomic bombs, those would probably be major. We've got non-human in there as well.
It's not my addiction. It's what keeps me running. My uranium. It's my battery, man.
It could be. You needed
Hooray.
to keep going. You've got non-human, mentioned before. It's very similar to Uncanny Valley, just kind of a different flavor. We then have secret history, which is a minor. There's a part of your past even you can't remember. Your mind either blocked it out or it was erased. You earn a buster point whenever this forgotten past serves as a stumbling block for you. So those are the ones we have as of now.
Doesn't sound like there's a lot of major, and I'm looking for something to give me that extra dice.
Well, if you can suggest something that counts as a major setback, then yeah, we'll table it. We'll see if it makes sense. Run
There's a
with it.
vampire hunter after you.
So like a nemesis, I would almost put more so as minor, because like you fight Nazis for a living now.
I should look like this. I'm kidding, but that would be amazing.
You're a potato cat.
Yeah.
That's a super kitty loaf.
Yeah, where
200%
something
fluff.
like a nemesis, I feel, is more so a minor, because it's another threat being thrown your way. It's something I could see potentially could jump up to major, but I'm not sure how I would roll with that at this point. I don't know how I would make that a major setback for you.
Alright, in the vein of
It's the
that,
baron of your town.
Hmm.
say the Nazis were uncannily interested in studying vampires.
They are.
They
yes.
already are.
In that case, like, half the reason why they're going out to a lot of these places is to try to acquire technologies, and some of that technology includes
Research
genetics,
specimens.
which they get in spades from a lot of people. So, yes, but also it's not unique, unfortunately.
Okay.
They're looking for all vampires, therianthropes, rat people, everything in terms of like, how do the genetics work? How can we make the perfect killing creature from these kind of mad science ideals?
Lost a limb.
I'm not a big fan of those personally. Like I like it, but at the same time, have a strong dislike of anytime you take a disability and call it a knock or a setback or anything like that. Just because it's demeaning.
Oh, but functionally it means you can't use any two-handed weapon.
Yeah.
Like a harpoon or a rifle or...
Don't get me wrong, I get it, but I also don't like it. I don't like it in a mechanical sense. But yeah, I definitely get the follow behind it. I don't want to reward people in that way, I guess. If that's something you'd like to have happen to your character or be part of your character, that's fine.
So I'm trying to think of things we used for rippers. And one was losing an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's depth perception, man.
So how do block, evade, parry, and resist get statted?
Aha!
So,
I'm trying to remember which is which.
those defenses are...
Because you said soak is just your armor.
Mm-hmm.
Soak is your armor value and then any bonuses, because contextual bonuses, right? Block is your number of brawling dice
Okay.
times 3. And then you would add any pips that you've got there.
Okay.
So the pips aren't included in the multiplication, right? So that's commonly used during unarmed combat, right? And if you don't have any dice in brawling, you would just use might instead to calculate that.
So that includes.
Yeah, because you ought to, I mean, if you have a might of 3, then you have 3 dice in brawling. It's just, you don't have...
Right.
You don't have an additional 3.
And that shit times 3.
Mm-hmm.
Brawling times 3 plus pips. And they're all built like that, all the defenses. Evade is
Agility?
reflex times 3 plus pips.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have dice in reflex, you'd use agility.
Where did the pips come from?
If you have
Pips from your...
if you have agility, you have 3d plus 2. You'll multiply 3 times 3, and then add the 2 after that. Does that make sense?
And you can get pips from the knocks if you took extra knocks.
Yeah. Or you could take one of those 12 dice you've got for attributes and say this
Split
one
them.
die is now 3 pips, and say throw 1 on might, throw 1 on agility, throw 1 on vigor, or 2 on agility, 1 on might.
Oh, so splitting them up.
If you want to, yes. Now, a lot of the system does focus around the dice.
Yeah.
Whenever it's saying add might or multiply might, it's usually implying just the dice, not the pips.
Okay.
Parry is the number of melee dice times 3,
Okay.
So you should probably have a pretty good parry.
and then adding pips to that, right? Resist is the greater of your wit or spirit dice.
Fuck.
So you're either rationalizing or,
That's where they get you.
sort of willpowering your way through it, times 3 plus pips.
So block is shit. Evade and parry are great. Resist is pretty good.
I'm great as long as I don't have to resist.
So
I'm gonna
you
be
pretty much
evading
said
a
that
lot.
about the only minor or major ones would be either a severe allergy, if it's common enough, or
Physical barrier or
If it's-
addiction.
if it's common enough.
Yeah.
So is there another physical barrier that's common enough besides private residence?
Iron?
Iron shavings, iron in general, really.
Because I considered taking iron as a major thing, given its reactivity to chlorine, especially in high temperatures. But I decided that sounded like a pain in the ass because we're in the mid 1900s.
Iron is frickin' everywhere.
Yep.
The majority of the guns are made out of, well, most of those are probably steel. But
But the buildings,
Mhm.
even if they're not just iron, there's going to be some measure of that somewhere.
yeah, and that's part of the reason why it is major, is that you're looking at something that is common enough that it is, for you, oxygen is a major. It is everywhere. You need something to help you breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm trying to think of other.
Smoke?
Smoke's pretty damn common, especially on a battlefield. Yeah.
I've got a smoke allergy. It's not fun.
I don't really want to put any more into wit or spirit.
Pretty much any
but
kind of
resist is
fumes,
awful.
actually. Exhaust fumes.
I mean,
Evade
I
may.
don't
Block
want to
is
make my
literally free,
character
so-
just not
My
work.
parry's 15.
I mean,
Riparian
that's almost
maybe
always
does
going to be the catch
pilot,
with
but
something
block is
major.
3 and my
It's going to be a
resist is
big enough
9,
setback
so
that
block
it's
would usually
almost
be,
saying, like,
not
no,
in
you
combat.
can't do
Yeah.
this.
I plan to not
Can I
be
take
in
3
armor.
minor knocks?
You get your hands on an inhaler.
No.
No.
If you can get an inhaler, you might be able to mitigate some of the smoke.
Potentially, yeah. But in doing so, you would be voiding the buster points you could earn
That's true,
from it.
yeah.
Because it's the majority for buster points is like any time that this causes a major stumbling block for you or your plans. That's when it'd kick in.
I think I'm ready.
That is the hard part about writing majors. They've got to be worth it, so it's not something that just kind of slides by. But
Oh, I wanted to grab some
I
armor.
don't think I remember
Time to
those
die.
majors being
How many
so
slots do you have
difficult.
left?
I don't know. Was it might
Yeah.
Might times 2.
times 2?
Oh, my time.
and granted, I haven't actually seen the major
Right.
debilitations for
Sorry?
I thought it was
the
just for you, isn't it,
mini
for
six
everybody?
system,
Inventory
so
slots you get.
I'm just running.
Yeah, the
with
number of
what we
might
got.
dice times 2 is the number of slots you have.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Because otherwise I
Okay,
wouldn't
now.
have anything.
I wanted to grab some like leather armor.
Okay. Leather armor is 1/2 and gives you 1 armor. If you've got more spaces, you can bump that up to better armor.
what was
If
the
that
armor
interests you.
above carrier
Yeah,
plate?
like studded leather.
So it goes trench coat, which you could effectively say is leather. Carrier plate, which is your 1 slot.
Mhm.
Flak jacket, which is your 1.5 slot. And then
Okay.
breastplate, which is your 2 slot.
Okay. So what's the armor for breastplate?
Breastplate
That's fine.
is 9.
Okay. I'm gonna change that.
Alright, how about this? A severe allergy to wood.
Yeah, I could see that. It fits along with like the vampirism theme and whatnot.
Yeah, because that's like living.
I plan on being hand to hand.
There's a lot of wood all over the place. The butt of some weaponry,
Just a
although
ranging
a lot
fire.
of World War II stuff were more pure metal stamp. So you wouldn't have to obviously worry about that for your own weapons. You know your weaknesses. You know to avoid them.
Furniture.
Yeah, furniture.
Doors.
Yeah, it's viable, but
Houses.
yeah. I kind of like it because it puts you in a situation where most of the time you are still functional. You have other people who can potentially open doors for you and do stuff like that. But if you ever get thrown in a situation where it's like literally the door closes behind the party and you're on the other side, what do you do? It'd be viable, yeah.
So that could be a major.
That would be major, yes. Wood is everywhere. It is very common.
Especially in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. The shard you're going to may not be in the 50s.
Oh, okay.
That's true. Yeah.
I was just thinking about those wood paneled station wagons.
So I'm thinking I actually am gonna have her be from like a Horizon Zero Dawn type universe. Everything's kind of a weird cobbled together mesh of primitive and then high tech.
Where society has fallen and you survived. You are what is left of what was society and are forming a new society.
Or maybe the society that was there is gone and then we moved in and we're like, hey, we can maybe live here.
So how did the Nazis get involved? That's the part you got to come up with.
I'm still on the armor thing.
yeah.
String thing of,
Something's
like,
got.
initially I was gonna go with like leather armor, but then I thought maybe she can get something more plated. If she's using just like scrap stuff.
Yeah, so in terms of helping you understand what each of these look like, trench coat is kind of your leather armor equivalent. Carrier plates were just introduced in World War II and is effectively like ceramic plate armor, but only in vital spots. So I could see that being probably like a step up from studded leather even. Like that. Not quite chainmail, but
That's probably about what she has.
flak jacket is literally like bars of metal that have been lined up to protect from incoming blows and bullets. That's your 3rd tier, and then breastplate is just Suit of metal.
Okay, I'm gonna go with carrier plate.
Flak is 6.
Flak is 6 for 1.5
Slots. Yes.
Okay, as far as the block defense,
Mm-hmm.
what can you use that against? Because I remember it was very limited in Rippers.
It's limited by design.
Getting punched.
Yeah, it's unarmed combat, basically.
So kung fu fights and disarmed Nazis.
So that martial artists and people who are focusing on unarmed combat, in terms of melee, that they are still effective at defending themselves, rather than using something like evade or parry, which they would use with a melee weapon.
So if you're unarmed but you're fighting somebody with a melee weapon, can you still use?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be using block.
Yep.
What are the stats for the carrier plate again?
Carrier plate is 1 slot, 3 armor.
Because I'm really good at block. I'm okay at invade, and the rest of them are just shit.
I'm super shit
Tends to
at
happen.
block.
Never be without a weapon or a gun.
Oh, I don't plan to be within like hitting range of like someone's fist.
I am a weapon.
I am
apparently.
tiny by
I
design.
am
My whole body's a weapon.
No, that is.
I designed my
ridiculous.
character to like run around and shoot people, and so they can't hit me back. Like just, yeah,
The sly dodger.
yeah.
And I don't plan to be out of stabbing range.
At any time.
So this will work. You guys will be in the hitting, punching range, and I will skirt around behind you.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Skirt, skirt, skirt.
Skirt, skirt, skirt.
I just imagine a rat in a skirt, like waving it back and forth when you're saying skirt, skirt, skirt.
Hula, hula.
Or
Yeah, the
Mouse.
hula dancing.
Mouse with a trench
Sorry.
coat, so it's like the flappy with a trench
Trench
coat.
coat.
Yeah,
Just
but
get
you
like
had
a-
Minnie Mouse
a
bow in
kilt.
your hair.
I sure fucking don't.
Just have the really cute
No, it's
ears.
it's actually Hello Kitty.
I do have little ear holes cut out in my leather helmet because, ow.
This is one of my favorite things to see when it comes to like furry artists, how they deal with the ears.
Mm-hmm. Because you can't just smush them down.
No, that's painful.
I
We've
always-
thought about this.
I always figure it's very funny when when people still put like the earbuds like down here instead of up here.
Yes.
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
difference between Zootopia and Arthur. Zootopia got it right. Arthur, he's wearing them here. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
It's always
These are things that keep me up at night.
It's always so funny.
Yeah. It's that quick moment where you're like, they didn't think about this at all.
Which is funny because you know the kids watching are going,
Oh, yeah.
why aren't the earbuds in his
Yeah.
ears? Yeah.
It's where you Arthur fist.
Yeah.
That exact.
that exact meme to a T.
What about you, my love? What are you making?
It's none of your business.
But it is my business.
The Killbot 9000. I see titled right there. Actually, I have no idea.
Honestly, I would believe that.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
it's-
oh, yeah, that makes sense.
That's why I threw it out there.
HK-47?
Ooh, there you go.
Okay.
Refer to everybody as a, what, flash bag?
Flash
Meat
bag,
sack?
Meat sack.
Meat sack.
I tried so hard one Christmas to find him an HK-47 figurine. Do you have any idea how freaking expensive those things are?
Well, figurines
No,
can get
actually.
expensive real fast.
I had to go on eBay, which is step number one,
Mhm.
to super expensive, and they're all like at least over $100.
Yeah.
I was like, he would kill me. I can't.
Yep.
I couldn't get him any HK-47 memorabilia at all.
That's what I expected. A lot of figurines can be 130,
But even
like
I
average.
couldn't even find him like a mug or a T-shirt or anything with the HK-47. Just the figurines, and they're super expensive.
You might check Redbubble.
I might do that.
Redbubble's
Because this was a couple years ago.
That nice, like, pseudo-illegal, completely actually illegal area, but it still kind of sits around there. Yeah, it's a good place to go.
It depended on like how much of are they just ripped images or are they like created images?
Even then, if you're using a known character, you can get sued to hell and back.
Yikes.
A lot of dealer den floors, like, a lawyer should not step in that place lest they become very, very, well, actually not that rich, you're suing artists, but
Yeah. So an artist stole my whole lot of money.
yeah. Unfortunately. But
Is it because she has your blanket?
maybe.
Probably.
Because he's laying on the blanket on the floor, right by your feet, Maria. Yeah, bud. I tried to move that blanket earlier, and he was like completely buried inside it. I was like, "Oh, my bad." Guess I'm not gonna fold that up on the back of the couch.
So we do have general weights and understandings for some equipment. So like first aid kit versus a medical kit. One is light and will heal 10 hit points but is consumed on use. The other enables medical healing rolls and is medium. You've got tool kits, which are weighty. These enable some sort of engineering roll. So by that logic, technically a computer would probably fit under a toolkit if you had something that wasn't the size of a
Super weighty.
living room.
Mm-hmm.
Scientific kits are heavy for applications of knowledge rolls. Other general tools are generally considered around medium, so 1 point. And then the allied and access munitions are heavy, so 2 points each, but would allow you to do a full reload of any one allied and or access weapon, depending on which you grabbed.
Well, I thought I heard Jason say lockpick kits are like negligible.
Yeah,
For-
if you put dice in Black Ops, I
Yeah.
assumed you'd start with some kind of lockpicking
Okay.
Yeah.
kit. I mean, that
And-
makes sense.
These are all like base points. Like you
Okay.
can literally get a lockpick kit that fits in a wallet.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
Yeah.
I might
so,
take a first aid kit though, because I have another.
But that would be the one
Light.
thing you got out of Black Ops, right?
That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of it is like, here's a good starting point, and then depending on what it is, modify it.
I'm not really sure a lot of my skills lend themselves towards weapons. I mean, towards items.
So you're telling me all yours are weapons? No, I mean that can be fine. Like perception, you could potentially say binoculars.
That's what I wrote.
Some of them are a little bit harder to like come up with something per se, but
Like
give-
brawling.
brawling, brass knuckles.
That'd give me a bonus on damage.
Yeah,
mean, the
like,
knuckles,
like a
yeah.
+1, probably. I think.
Nothing
You have
remarkable,
it?
but
Or
Yeah.
maybe like nail files. You just file your nails real sharp.
I was gonna say, if you're punching somebody with a nail file, you're playing wrong, man. That's rough. It's like a prison yard.
Yeah, that's a shank at that point.
Oh.
Like the classic steel ones.
But yeah, if you want any other idea generation, I can try. I definitely won't guarantee I've got all of them now.
Stamina.
Stamina, an energy drink. You've got the first Gatorade.
You can pop
Like
some
40 years before it's done.
Jet.
Yeah. I'm
Reflex.
sorry, this is the 50s. It's cocaine.
Yes, it's cocaine.
It's just straight cocaine.
Just gonna put
Or meth.
cocaine in my gear.
Yes,
Meth is
methamphetamines were
Oh.
created as wartime
What's
pep
that?
pills.
If we're being fair though, if you ever want to be able to eat with your teeth, you probably don't want to do that.
No, most of the time they would be like oral. Like meth.
Yeah,
Like
but,
Yeah.
you mean like pill? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, meth usually is oral. Oh,
Yes.
pill, not
Yes.
smoke.
But
Okay.
you're both correct. The best kind of correct.
If you're intravenously doing meth, I think you're doing it wrong.
But yeah, I mean, you can definitely have some fun with it and check in with those kind of things. For a lark, I would say, yeah, sure, you want a little like snuff container of cocaine because you have the vitality. Sure, have fun with that. See what you can do with that. This was before drugs were really heavily understood in terms of their long-term negative effects.
yes. This was
Addiction was known, but
getting you to make a long march in the night to get to the camp. Take these. It'll keep you aware and alive.
you know, literally getting people hooked on meth
So if I were to drop,
field.
like, use my stamina to get an item that was like a hit of cocaine,
Hmm.
could I use that to give like a stamina boost for an encounter?
No.
No.
What for an action?
No.
It's
takes an action to.
It's
hit.
pure flavor.
Oh.
This is playtest time. There's no
Yeah.
time for negotiation. Mechanics.
I mean, that's kind of.
We have to figure out if the mechanics that we've already put actually work before you start adding new ones.
Yeah. The majority of the ideas is that the items you're picking up enable you to do what you already have from the skill.
Cool.
So you could pass it off as like, I'm gonna take a little whiff of this snuff jar, and that's why I'm rolling so well.
I like it.
Or you just ignore it completely and don't worry about it.
Like it. I like it.
So I don't need binoculars to have one of perception because I'm literally a mouse person and I can just see and smell well.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I was.
Yep.
kind
And
of going
the
with.
binoculars are there in case they feel right for a story moment.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I think I'm just gonna stick with weapons and armor for gear because
That's fine.
Sure, Brooke.
I got a first aid kit because I'm kind of squishy. But
Hit points are good.
I took a first aid kit because I plan on getting hit.
yeah.
I'm made with hit points, so I'm not real concerned about it.
I'm not made of hit points.
It made me sad, Steven, that I cannot get your shirt on Amazon.
I know.
Yeah. I would also.
I could order it online, but
Not.
I'm so used to 2-day shipping. But
Mm-hmm. You gotta wait.
How much for a first aid kit?
It's just light.
Half
So
a slot.
Yep. And it is just a flat. Here's 10 hit points when you use it, and it's consumed.
Oh, what was it that?
I'm gonna grab 2 of those.
I mean, if you have like a medical skill, there's a medical kit, which is medium and would enable medicine-based healing rolls.
Oh.
So more long-term in that sense, but focuses on the idea that you're using a medical skill to recover hit points.
I mean, I have a 4 in medicine.
That's a thing, yeah.
Like total with wisdom or?
I think medicine kit. How many spots does that take up?
1.
One. If you have the
Why don't you
space,
say 2?
you could just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And that way yours won't deplete, whereas the 3 among the 2 of you will.
Yeah, first aid kits just get burned out, like med kits
Just-
and
Yeah.
Clothing, take a slot at all.
No, personal clothing doesn't count.
Armor does, but not clothing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's... I don't know, I guess I've always kind of seen it as like a mixture of physical space it takes up on you plus actual physical weight.
Yeah.
Is kind of how you calculate your carrying capacity in
Yes,
the
it's
system.
a big abstraction, just like,
Yeah.
designed so that you won't carry like 4,000 pounds of gold and 38 weapons, and so you're not a walking armory.
Hmm.
Unless your character is a walking armory.
I was going to say, which brings us to you. Are you a walking armory?
No.
What are the stats for a hunting knife?
It'd be a
That would just fall
combat
under knife. So
So that's a light, so half a slot. And its qualities are just a flat +2. So +2 to your brawn, or might, in terms of damage.
So what are you, my dear?
He's a deer person.
He's a deer person.
I mean, I've got them spec'd up, but...
Got natural weapon horns.
I didn't actually... I don't think I jumped into perks for a lot of them. I did just the base. Here's the stat modification according to the formula.
Yeah.
Where it's like... One of your attributes is +1, +2. One of your attributes is +0, +1. And then
Yeah.
one of your attributes is, I think, +1, -1? Or 0, -1. I think was the general balance for all the anthro. It's written down somewhere.
Okay. I think I'm done.
All right, so that's everybody.
I think so. Has everybody got their character put together?
Armed, equipped,
Somebody
and ready
picked
to
up picked names.
I did.
I did.
Lance.
No. First name.
I have a first name. Yeah, I don't have a last name.
No, first name, but
Lance and I perpetually don't have Lance.
I need
last
to
names.
I need to put something in the rules text where if you don't come up with a surname, you're docked 1 pip.
hey, not everyone
It's
had,
only one. It's not mine.
had
Come on, not everybody
surnames
has-
back then.
Lance.
What do you mean back then? You
Maybe
mean the 50s?
Maybe my
What do you
home
mean,
shard
you
doesn't have
people?
last names.
It depends on what shard
Yeah, that's
you're in.
fair.
Don't give me that bullshit.
Because a lot of times it would just be your quote family name was just your parents' name, son.
Or profession.
Then that would
depending
do.
on
That
their-
was
Or
your
profession.
surname. And you just put that.
That way we know what your father was called. Or mother.
That way, if we ever want to steal your password, we've got that.
Or your social security number.
Yeah, wow. That's. I'm kind of glad we've moved away from that. Now that I think about that. Kind of interesting. All right.